It is finally here, game week for the Cleveland Browns. They had a Monday practice here on Labor Day, a light day, and then they will start in earnest on Wednesday preparing for the Dallas Cowboys. And of course, the thing we're all watching and wondering is who's going to start at left tackle. Jedrick Wills was not back on the practice field, and Mary Kay, as you've been talking about, we've been talking about it on the pod over and over again, this really feels like when we get there on Sunday at Cleveland Browns Stadium, it's going to be Jack Conklin lining up at left tackle.
Yeah, it really does feel like that right now, and it's actually pretty remarkable that Jack Conklin is going to be out there, considering that he blew out that knee in week 1 of last year. So kudos to Jack for working so hard and being able to get back and fill in at left tackle. Of course, it's still a big mystery. Where is Jed Wills Jr.? I thought he was going to be practicing the same way DeJuan Jones was in organized team activities in May after they both underwent MCL surgeries in December. But no sign of Jed yet. I think it will be Jack.
Yeah, it felt like in the spring Jed would be back and he'd be competing for at that left tackle position. But Ashley, here we are, Dallas Cowboys week. Micah Parsons coming to town, and we haven't seen Jed. So again, everything's pointing to Jack.
Yeah, and there's just not been much clarity. I mean, obviously the Browns tend to say as little as possible about players going through the injuries and giving details about those injuries, but I do think this is surprising. I think, like, best case scenario at this point, we were hoping we'd all go out there today and see Jed Wills practicing, but he's not. Of course, only 3 real practices left before the Dallas Cowboys come to town, but at least we've talked about this continually. Jack Conklin had a ton of left tackle experience in college at Michigan State, so they at least have that going for him, and he's also obviously an all-pro. I think it's just easier for those guys to adjust if it does wind up being him.
Yeah, he did point out to us last week he's made the switch before. Obviously it was from left to right, so he would just be moving back to left if that's where they need him. Now, something we saw today that we didn't see all of training camp, we didn't see all of spring, Mary Kay, the full complement of players on both sides of the ball, especially on the offensive side with who Deshaun Watson was throwing to.
Yeah, I would have to say that so many reports coming out of training camp throughout the whole entire summer had Browns fans worried. Everywhere I went, people were like, what are they going to do? How are they going to look? And I think that people can rest assured that this is going to look a lot better than it did throughout those preseason games when no starters played and throughout all these practices when many of the starters were injured. Now, we looked out there today and we only were out there for about the first 30 minutes, but you see Deshaun Watson throwing to Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, David Njoku. This has all of the makings of an explosive offense.
And on the other side of the ball, Ashley, defenders, a lot of guys back there. We saw the full secondary back out there. Greg Newsome has been running around. So really both sides of the ball, we're finally getting a look. Even though we don't get to watch practice anymore, we're finally getting a look at these full units.
Yeah, and it's been good to hear from some of these guys too. Last week we got to talk to Greg Newsome, Dalvin Tomlinson. Both of them sounded like, hey, really reiterating what we know about the Browns, that maybe oftentimes they're just overcautious with these guys in training camp in the preseason. Greg said he had felt good enough weeks ago to have come back if they wanted him to, but I think that right now we are seeing this basically almost fully formed, and yeah, it stinks that we didn't get to watch that during those full practices, but I think especially the defensive side of the ball, they looked so good even with so many guys missing, so that is a reason to be optimistic, I think.
All right, it's go time. The next time we talk to you, we'll have been in an open locker room, we'll have watched practice, and we will be fully in to Dallas Cowboys mode for week 1. We'll have full coverage leading up to the game at cleveland.com/Browns.